Good evening, I'm Jim Whaley. Tonight it's a great pleasure to welcome back to Cinema Showcase a very fine young actor, Matt Dillon. His films include Little Darlings and My Bodyguard, and his latest motion picture for Walt Disney Productions is called Tex. Later on in the program, I'll be talking with the author of the best-selling book Tex, S.E. Hinton. So join me as I talk with Matt Dillon and S.E. Hinton tonight on Cinema Showcase. Thank you very much for joining Cinema Showcase, and right now join me in welcoming back to the program Matt Dillon. Matt, thanks very much for taking this time out. It's good to see you again.
It's nice seeing you, too.
You're on what is known right now as a publicity tour for a motion picture. These things, I would think, must be kind of tiring. Do you ever wake up one morning and wonder if you're in Cleveland or Detroit?
That happens a lot. Like today I was doing a phone interview with this guy from Florida, and I was talking to him, and he said, where are you now? You're in Atlanta? And I said, huh? Yeah. I spaced it out.
I found the secret to that is you really learn a lot about hotels and airports. Mm-hmm. You know, you learn to identify cities by their airport. You know,
the Atlanta airport's huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've learned in the traveling I do on film junkets and things that, you know, the airport in Dallas is immense. You can get lost in there very easily. Anything else about Dallas, I'm not sure of, but the airport, I can tell you about. Let me tell you how impressed I was with your movie Tex. I think it's, in many ways, a marvelous picture, and one thing that impressed me a great deal was the authenticity, let's say, of the dialogue. Everything the characters said sounded so real, almost as if it were being improvised. I know that wasn't the case, but it sounded so real.
Well, that was Susie, man. She's good with dialogue. Mm-hmm. She's got a natural knack for it, you know.
Tell me something about the character of Tex. How would you describe him?
He's a happy-go-lucky kid going through those teenage years, you know, going through those depression years. But he just wants to basically have a good time. And he has to kind of grow up quicker than the average kid because his mother's dead and his father's always off on the rodeo. He's a rodeo clown. So, you know, Tex wants to just be like the rest of his friends, having a good time and going out and doing the usual messing around that kids do. And he does, but it causes conflict with his brother. Mm-hmm. And so there's no money in the family. I mean, you know, now especially that the father's away and he hasn't been sending money in like he was supposed to do. And the mother's dead. And so Mace can't go out and get a job unless he wants to blow his chance at a scholarship to go to college and play ball. So so Mace, the older brother, decides to sell Tex's horse and his own, and without Tex's permission. And Tex blows his cool because that's the one animal that he really loves. Yeah. The horse was played by Susie's horse, Susie Hinton. And
getting everybody into the act in this one, huh?
Huh?
Getting everybody into the act in this one.
Yeah, why not? It's a good horse, great horse, too.
How difficult was it in terms of acting? Was it a difficult role for you to do? Compared to the things you have done before?
It was different, yeah, it was different because in the other films I've done, you know, I've played less naive kids. But Tex he's a naive kid. He's a kid from the country, basically. And he's much more coming from he's rather simple, you know, until toward the end things get a little bit more complicated, and that's when he starts growing up.
Yeah. One thing I was very happy to see, too, is the fact that you were playing this role, in that it is quite different from the roles you had done before, and I was wondering if it was any concern to you that you might be, even at, you know, a young age, were you afraid of being typecast? Because you've played kind of bullies in those first couple of films.
Yeah, well, in Little Darlings, I wasn't exactly a bully, but I know what you mean. He was a street kid, streetwise kid. I'm not real worried about that because, you know, I still get scripts that are sent to me as intellectuals, college kids, rich guys. I get all kinds of scripts, and I'm not really worried about that, because I'll eventually do everything.
Yeah. Would you like to do?
But I find them to be it's a lot of fun. I'll say doing the character. It is fun.
Is there some kind of role that you haven't done that you would really like to do more than anything else?
Musician.
Or maybe you have, and we just haven't seen it.
There's so many, I always wanted to do a musician and play an instrument on film. That'd be fun.
Let me ask you something about the wide, wonderful world of teen magazines, because you are what is known as really a superstar of that whole industry. You've been on the cover and in those magazines for the last couple of years. And I would imagine there are good and bad things about all of that. What are they? What are the good and bad things?
It's hard to say. I don't think of it as, well, I think the one thing, I don't really think about that too much. That's publicity. There's nothing I can really do about that.
It's a necessity then?
I think the good thing about it is that the people that do go to films, a percentage of the people that go to films are, I'd say, kids all through the school years up till college, are the young people. So you have to kind of cater to the younger audience. I think from grammar school all the way to late grammar school all the way to college, I think, are the people that go see films. So that's one aspect of it. I don't particularly pay much attention to them when I go into the story. All I can do is give my best performance.
Yeah.
That's all you think.
How accurate, though, are some of the articles that?
I don't know. I don't really read them.
Good for you. When you're selecting or you and your manager or whoever are selecting a film to do, what are the primary things you look out for? Do you know what's best for you, or do you really have to be kind of talked into a?
Well, it's nice to have people that, that are helpful, let's say, advisors, how do I choose? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, how do you choose what you do?
Well, I kind of just wait until I read it, and I'm not going to say, well, let's see, in the last film I did this, so this one I shouldn't do this, although sometimes you can get caught up in that. But I just like to, if I like the project, if I really want to do it, then I want to do it, and my heart's into it. But I don't like to do anything if my heart isn't in it.
Now, what about text? When that was first presented to you, did you have an immediate liking for it?
Oh, yeah, I loved it, because I was a fan of S.E. Hinton. I didn't know her name was Susie at the time. I was a fan of her books, and, I still am, but through junior high school, I read all her books, the first books I read. So I was real familiar with her work. And they were the first books I read, the only books I read, practically. Yeah. And I did my first film, Over the Edge. And the guy who wrote the screenplay for Over the Edge, Tim Hunter, asked me if I'd be interested in, the last day of shooting, asked me if I'd be interested in doing a Susie Hinton book and turning it into a film. And I said, yeah, I love her books, man. So he sent me the script about a year later. I loved it, and he said he got Disney to get it going. Got it going, and it went on from there.
This is kind of an example of the Disney studios kind of branching out, isn't it? Because it is a PG film, and it doesn't deal with young people in a sanitized way. I mean,
yeah.
What's there is very much reality.
It is. It's realistic. What was the question?
Let me back up a minute about the. I forgot the question I was going to ask you too, but I was pointing out the fact that this being it's not typical of your Disney product, and it is an example of the fact that the studio is branching out and doing different
well, they're trying to
things.
widen their audience. They're trying to get. I mean, Disney has always had a real young audience, you know? And this is also for a young audience, of course,
I think this picture will appeal to.
It's more to teenagers and young people in general, rather than I think it'll expand in age-wise.
Yeah.
They're changing all that.
You mentioned Over the Edge, and I know you've probably told this story 100 or 1,000 times, but it is fascinating about how you were discovered for Over the Edge. It's almost as if a press agent invented it. Could you tell it one more time, how that came about?
Well, I was in junior high school, and I was jipping in a class. It was either math or art, I forget.
With me, it would have been math.
Yeah, it probably was math, because I didn't mind art, you know. But we used to change the schedule. So anyway, I'm walking down the hall, right, and I'm cutting class, and there's nobody in the hallway, and these two women come up to me, and I get a little nervous. I think, you know, these are some kind of counselors, new people in the school, you know, evaluating us. And they come up to me, they go, you, come here. And I'm like, what do you want from me? I'll go back to class, leave me alone, you know? And so they said, no, come here. And so I come over and they say, listen, we're doing a film, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to come down and read for it? And I said, will you pull my leg? And they said, no, we're very serious. It takes place. We're going to film it in Colorado this summer. And why don't you come down and read for it, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, sure. So I went down and I read for it. And I kept going, I kept coming down. There was about 10 kids from my school that went down and read for it. And I just kept getting callbacks and callbacks, and I finally was cast in the film.
What's interesting about that movie was that it reopened in New York, I think, last year, and the critics like sort of rediscovered the whole thing and called it a masterpiece and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was just it got really great reviews, critically acclaimed, and the whole thing was it never really did get a decent shot.
I know. That is so sad when good quality films like that don't get a chance to prove themselves. Before we take a look at a scene from the picture, and after which I'll be back to talk with the author of Tex, let me ask you about your future projects. What are you doing after Tex?
Well, did I tell you about The Outsiders?
Tell me about that one.
The Outsiders is Susie's first book, and Francis Ford Coppola directed it, and I was in that. And that's coming out in October. And then there's another project, another Susie Hinton book. I mean, she's just...
It's going to be a whole career of you.
Yeah. Called Rumblefish. And that's going to be shot this summer.
And Liar's Moon is a picture you've already done. You're not sure when that's going to be
I'm not sure when and where it's going to be released exactly right now.
This could turn out to be the Matt Dillon year with 4 pictures. That's incredible.
Yeah, really.
I want to thank you very much, Matt, for taking this time to come by. And right now we're going to take a look at a scene from Tex, after which I'll be back to talk with S.E. Hinton. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you another chance, Mason. Where are them horses?
Told you already, I sold them. Why do you think I'd start lying to you this late in life? Don't you ever close doors? No wonder I can't pay the gas bill.
Who'd you sell them to?
I ain't gonna tell you. If people bought a horse, they didn't pay to have some kid come bothering them.
Mace, Rowdy's mine. You just can't sell something that isn't yours.
You can't live on no money either. They got a good home, I made sure of that. But they're gone, so shut up about it.
Mason, you just better get those horses back.
I ain't getting them back. We couldn't have kept feeding them much longer anyway. Either they would have starved to death or we would. So just shut up about it.
You get those horses back.
I ain't getting them back. Texas, you better quit it. You know you're strong, Tex, but you never could fight worth a damn.
Get my horse back.
You ain't gonna find him, I told you.
The cop was here. We'll let you sell them.
If Pop was here, I wouldn't have to sell. That's the point.